Hello and welcome to Notes from Backstage. We're your hosts, Lydia
and Sophie, two cellists redefining how we approach classical music.
We talk about everything from mental health, music school, navigating our careers post-grad, and what it means to find your unique artistic voice.
Join us every Tuesday for a reminder that music is meant to be enjoyed and shared, and that life exists outside of the practice room. Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of the Notes from Backstage podcast. This week we're going to be talking about all the sorts of different jobs we do as artists, because it involves a lot more than just practicing our instrument, and we don't think this is kind of talked about enough and or normalized.
I feel like everybody I think knows my tagline on all my social media videos is I don't have a job, but it's because I have several jobs, and that is very, very true. I think day to day, week to week, month to month, everything looks totally different. And I think sometimes, at least for me, I'll speak personally, like when I was growing up in the music world, I knew from a pretty young age that I wanted to be a musician. And there was a very clear, okay, then I'm going to go to the best pre-college academy that I can. I'm going to study with the best teacher. And then I'm going to go to the school that's the best fit for me and have the best teacher that I can there. And then I'm going to go to grad school because that's something I want to do for myself. And then what happens? What do we do after we have all of the degrees and we've done the training and you are let out into the world and they say you are a complete musician? And I'll tell you right now, I don't always feel like that. And I think that's sort of like maybe a disservice to all the things that I actually do in my day-to-day life, and also to how I'm still trying to grow as a musician and as an artist.
Yeah, no, I think you really summed it up very well. It's a real shock when you graduate and or I don't know, I realised this obviously before I graduated because I'm still studying, but conservatoire doesn't really prepare you for the world out there. They can tell you how to play, but not really how to survive / create a career for yourself as a musician.
And sometimes it's a lot grittier than what you would maybe hope for, or just the realities of, having to pay your rent.
Yeah.
Sometimes look a little bit different than what you might be fed in conservatory, just in terms of what the ideals are versus what the practicalities end up being.
Yeah. Have you ever come across people saying that if you're not only performing to pay your rent, then you're not a good musician?
I feel like I personally haven't encountered that in my actual life, but that's because I don't surround myself with people that maybe have that mentality. But that mentality definitely exists. I know that mentality exists, but I think for me, again, speaking personally to my life in New York City, everybody does everything.
Yeah.
I have not met a musician that lives in New York City that is like, well, I only play for, let's say, studio recordings and I refuse to do anything else. That's just not a mentality that you can have, nor do I think really good musicians have that mentality, because I think really good musicians are really good artists, are interested in other things that are going on around them, and they want to be good at other things. And there are things that I do that I admit that maybe that's not my strong suit, but I put myself into it because I want to get better at it.
Yeah.
And it's not all to do with just my playing abilities.
Do you want to tell us about some of those?
Yeah, some of the jobs that I've had.
Yeah, I found it really interesting when you said stuff you just want to get better at.
Yeah. Well, and I guess also maybe just to give some context too, because not everybody listening in might completely know our whole life story, so maybe I'll say mine, you say yours, and we'll come back to that. So I went and did my undergraduate degree in Cleveland, Ohio, and then I moved to New York City for my master's degree at the Juilliard School, again in cello performance. So I was always full on performance track, and then I graduated 2 years ago with my master's degree. So I'm now almost exactly 2 years out from having been handed my diploma and told, you are now a master.
Well done.
Go for it. You now have learned everything, which, okay, nobody actually says that, nor do I believe that.
Actually just getting started.
Exactly. But I've now sort of had the 2 years of the post-grad life experience. And I really feel like the first year of me out of grad school was just honestly decompressing and being what just happened to me? I now no longer have a steady teacher, but I'm still trying to learn. But how do I learn while I, again, am making sure that I can pay my rent and all these things, and be able to have time and energy and the resources to do the things that are interesting to me, that I feel are making me grow as an artist? Because you don't graduate and then go, oh, I have no more goals anymore. You actually have more goals than you know what to do with, if you're anything like me. But sometimes you're like, oh, I see the big picture, but how do I take the small steps to get there every day? But yeah, that's sort of my backstory, where I am, I guess, in my career. I'm a 2-year post-grad freelancer based in New York City. And do you want to tell people where you're sort of coming from at this moment?
Yeah, I feel like I don't know what you would call it. Is it a career or is it like evolution? It's kind of happened in reverse. I moved abroad to do my bachelor's in Norway with a specific teacher who I've admired for a very long time. And it was in the pandemic. Yeah, that was quite like a jolt to the system, but I got cast in Tar in my first year there. In my second year, I was whisked away to Berlin to film for half a year. And then I came back and I had to kind of pass all the exams and subjects that I'd missed because they wouldn't let me go on leave. You're only allowed to go on leave after you've done your second year in Norway, or if you get pregnant or are really ill.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
Not if you're cast in a blockbuster movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But they did allow me to be away and just said you're going to have to like catch up when you get back. And all those subjects that were one semester, I just took them in the spring semester. So for me, it was kind of about like just getting through my bachelor's whilst filming the movie and then promoting the movie. Then I promoted the movie all through my third year. And then I'd had some big concerts come out of that and started doing some big recordings. When I got the offer of the movie, I definitely wanted to do that because a big thing for me is bringing classical music to like a wider audience and getting more young people in to see classical music. And for me, I thought that this was an amazing opportunity to do that on such a large scale, and I wouldn't have been able to do that on my own, so it was like a no-brainer. But it really like unlocked another side of me, and I love doing all things creative. I mean, I've always been really interested in film, so that was like a natural thing for me to kind of, or like nobody in my immediate family was at all surprised. I took some time out from studying to kind of just like figure out what it is that really resonates with me, because I feel like I was so focused on trying to just book the next thing that I never actually stopped to ask myself what sort of career I wanted to have. And so this has been the most amazing year for me because I've been doing so many new jobs that I otherwise wouldn't have done. Got really into sound engineering, which is why we're here today. like you know, Sophie
is the brain behind the mics.
It's like
very true.
But you know, like I don't think I would have done all this stuff like had I not stopped to ask myself that. And then also like getting really into acting again. And I also work for an instrument foundation and I do stuff for them, like all sorts of things. It's just been a really cool year for me where I've been making the time to do all sorts of other different jobs, which I know in the long run will make my cello career way better. I mean, I know you do a bajillion different things, and you also mentioned like at some point you work in arts admin as well. Do you think all the other jobs you do make you a better musician overall? I'd be so curious to hear the sorts of jobs you do.
In preparation for this, I wrote down a list of some of the ones I've done just in like the past 6 months. I literally was going through my calendar being like, what did I do last week? Yeah. Sometimes my short-term memory just really goes. But a big part of my income, and also what I really do enjoy doing, I teach a lot. I have private students. I also do chamber music coachings in the city, and then I teach with Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center. I'm a teaching artist with them, so we go and teach.
That's amazing.
At general music classrooms. So we go and do like presentations on things related to music throughout the 5 boroughs and New Jersey. So that's one that I do throughout the year, which sometimes is really rewarding and sometimes is testing of one's patience.
But where did you go, like, in the summer? No, was it a couple of summers ago, or was it this summer? I remember you posting something about it and it being on your website.
Cuba?
Yes.
Oh, you're thinking of Cuba.
I'm thinking of Cuba.
Yeah, I did go to Cuba in October 2024, it would have been. And I went there for a week with a program that my undergraduate teacher's sister runs, and I went sort of as like an ambassador for the program, and they bring together music students in Cuba with students from the US that travel there to do some sort of collaborative work, but also because of the humanitarian crisis that Cuba is in, it also is a trip to sort of provide them resources as best you can. And so we did bring things like medicine and candy, things like that, like just humanitarian resources that they would need. But then we also did a really big effort for bringing music supplies. So strings, mutes, bows. Someone actually brought like an old violin that they had, and they donated it to kids there because they really have a need for just instruments and supplies and things like that. And I think a lot of the work that I do really comes from my, I guess, like social justice calling, I guess, to call attention to the lack of resources that some people have. And I think it's very true that like you don't know where the next Jacqueline Dupre is, and it could be somewhere in a classroom in Cuba without an instrument, you know? So like the more that you can provide education resources to kids, the better. And that's a big part also of why I do the teaching throughout the 5 boroughs in New Jersey, because New York City has a really wide range of incomes. And so the schools that we're going to, some of them are private schools, and some of them are publicly funded schools that are maybe tailored towards special needs students, or they have a lot of students that English is their second language, etc. And so we're in those settings a lot, bringing them access to music education. And that's really rewarding to me.
That's amazing.
And I feel very lucky to be able to partner with Chamber Music Society to be able to do that. So those are some of like my more like educational side of things that I do for work. And then I also a cello piano duo that I play in a lot. And we were able to play in Chicago, New York City, Canada, and then London this season, which is really exciting. This was sort of our first season, like not only doing things associated with school, which was exciting because now also that's a whole process of like pitching yourself and being able to get gigs, and how can you prove to somebody that you should that you should exist on their season. Like that's kind of a whole other minefield. And then I play a lot of orchestra concerts, recording projects, and like private events throughout the city. So that's like sort of why I like literally every day looks so different, because my state of income and my state of well-being like literally can vary like week to week. But I think for me, like I knew going into grad school that I wasn't going to be taking a traditional orchestra career path, at least for right away, like in my 20s, because I just wanted the flexibility of being able to make my own choices a little bit more, and also be able to travel a little bit more, because I think there was this like misconception that, or there is this misconception that playing in an orchestra is like the stable job that you can have as a musician. Not to say that it isn't, but when COVID hit, orchestra musicians were the first ones out of a job. And there were people that play in the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra or that play in the New York Phil that had to move out of the city because they could no longer afford to live there without having their job. And so for me, I think I've actually taken a lot of comfort in knowing that if I can be varied in what I do, I will always have another option available to me.
Diversify your income.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's so important, because I think otherwise when you get too pigeonholed and you get too like tunnel visioned, and the thing is too, I think, and this is the part that's really tricky that I would like love to talk to you about, is I think you have to be tunnel vision at some point when you're trying to get good. Like when you are at that stage in life when like all you want to do is be a cellist, and you're like in high school or like first years of undergrad or whatever, all of your efforts have to be at getting good at your instrument, because there is only so far like connections and charisma can take you. Like you have to have the chops. And it's not to say that like once you graduate you no longer are worried about the chops, but like it's just kind of interesting, because I think you go through this process of like, I am going to spend all of my time practicing because I have to do that in order to reach the level that will help me attain these goals and achieve these dreams that I have. But then like you get to grad school and you get out of grad school and you suddenly are wanted because you have chops, but you're also nice to work with and you're good at responding to your emails. Oh, and hey, if somebody needs to like shoot a video for promo, you're good with the camera, or for you're good at the sound engineering. Like,
or you're good at talking.
Exactly. Like there are all these other skills that come into play that, I mean, how did you sort of balance that, I guess, when you were working like on this movie, but then also in school, like having that in your head of like, I want to be really good at the cello, but my time is being taken by other things?
That was actually a really tricky period, and it's very nice that you ask. But I've always been like this. I've always been very determined. If I'm going to do something, I'll do it. It's like when I applied for college in Norway, you had to learn Norwegian to, I think it was B2 level, which is like the level below fluency when I applied. So I was like, okay, I'll do that, and I'll learn it in 9 months, even though incredible. I have like, I go to a really academic school and I'm expected to get the top level grades and practice. If you're determined to do it and you have a reason, you'll do it. And I really wanted to graduate on time, so I remember I was really proactive and just like made sure I got it all done. It's hard to say because I've always really enjoyed practice and really wanted to put in the work, and I found it meditative practicing. I do remember when I started conservatoire that people would say, I'd practice too much, like not to toot my own horn or whatever, but like
you were the girl that didn't have a life.
I mean, I'm not proud of it, and I don't think I should have done that. I was that person who didn't have a life, and I would like lock myself in a practice room for 8 hours a day. Not healthy. Don't recommend. Do not do that. Also, you cannot concentrate properly for more than 4 hours a day.
Yeah. So I really take that to be true. When kids are coming up and they're like, well, but I've been practicing 6-7 hours a day. I'm like, doing what?
Doing what? Exactly.
What are you doing?
It's bad for your brain and your body. Don't do it. But like, I mean, I wasn't practicing 8 hours a day at that point because I was so busy. But I do remember feeling unsure as to how I was doing cello wise, because, you know, I'd go on these press tours and they wouldn't let me bring my cello, and then I'd have to come back and build up again. But if you're the one that wants to do it and you feel like you have like autonomy over what you're doing, then it's quite easy to motivate yourself to do it. I mean, it was an amazing experience getting to go all over the world and advocate for classical music and like women's role in classical music and how women are treated in the arts. I mean, it was like hella scary to talk about all those topics at the ripe old age of 20 or something.
Yeah.
2021, I think. But it gave me so much perspective. I found it really hard going back to school and seeing that a lot of my peers weren't as set on doing music. Coming from the UK, where it's A, really expensive, and B, really competitive, and C, really difficult to find opportunities because there's so many more people. And I sometimes felt a bit lonely in Norway coming back after having done something like that, and really being very sure that I wanted to give my all in terms of like doing something creative. And I'm like you in that, I mean, I do really enjoy playing an orchestra, but I could never see myself only working in orchestra. I'm a person who needs loads of different inputs and inspiration, and I need to be busy and I need to be doing loads of different things. And that's why this project was so amazing for me, because it made me wake up and see that that's possible. You know, I don't have to just limit myself to only playing the cello as a job. It was just really weird to come back and people be like, oh yeah, so when are you going to get a real job? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, they're like, oh yeah, an orchestral job. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't just like go to the same place every day after I've seen the world like this. So that's what I struggled with, people wanting me to put myself into this box, which I didn't fit in. And I feel like now I found my people, and like I'm friends with all sorts of different creatives, photographers, sound engineers, actors. Now I feel like I've met a lot of different people within the classical music, or maybe not classical music even, but within the music industry. Some amazing composers. I feel like composers are allowed to be a little more flexible in terms of how they define themselves or what kind of projects they do. But like, I don't know, that's been really inspiring for me this year. And also like meeting you and seeing you do a bajillion different things.
Well, I have a question for you based on all of that then. Do you feel like you see yourself and identify within yourself, regardless of what you would tell other people, but like for you internally, do you see yourself as a cellist or a musician or an artist? Like, do you feel in your head that one of those labels better like resonates with you?
I feel like I always used to call myself a cellist, but I feel like now I would definitely maybe go more for the artist. And I just find it a bit odd because musicians, like, I don't know, 200 years ago, it used to be totally normal for them to paint and compose. And
it was the whole like Renaissance.
You were just
Renaissance
like, you
woman
did everything.
Thing. Yeah.
And we've become so specialized. It's just like the nature of the society we live in now. But I feel like there's this kind of idea that you're only allowed to be good at one thing. I do feel like that's changed post-COVID, and you see a lot of, or I don't know, my observation is that the top soloists these days all have some extra kind of thing. Like, I don't know, take Kian, for example. He's done this amazing album.
Kian Soltani.
Yeah,
the cellist.
Kian, sorry. I should give some context. Kian Soltani, amazing cellist. He's done this amazing album called Cello Unlimited, where he rearranged all sorts of iconic film scores and recorded all of them himself. It sounds like an orchestra, but it's just cellos. And
that's, I mean, that to me is just so interesting when someone can come and take their own training and then their life perspective. Because I guess staying on the topic of Kian, when I got to hear him play in the fall, and he has this quite famous encore that he does that's inspired by like his Persian heritage that he wrote. And that to me is
right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's so cool because he's able to do things that are really unique to him. But for me, I look at that and I'm like, you have to have both the chops in order to play that and in order to play it well, because, you know, that's not an easy piece that he's playing. But for me, I'm like, that's coming out of his experience interacting with things outside of the practice room. Like, you cannot only be practicing your scales for 8 hours a day and then come up with a piece like that, because there would have been no inspiration for it. And he is somebody that has clearly, he's got the chops. He's such a fabulous, amazing cellist.
I have a playlist called Recordings That Make Me Want to Practice My Ass Off. And it's like just almost entirely Kian.
No, like that's what I'm saying is like, he's incredible. But also like having met him and, you know, you're friends with him, like he is a deeply interesting person. And there's much more going on in that brain than only how can I make my vibrato sound better.
Yeah, but like exactly, if we break this down, so at least if we just take this one recording project, so he's arranged, he's composed, knows enough about sound engineering to do it all,
the production side of
it, and then also he's a fantastic cellist, at least 4 or 5 additional skills to just being able to practice. And like you say, you have to get outside of the practice room and live your life in order to have the life experiences to draw on, so that you're able to create these amazing projects that resonate with people and say something.
Absolutely. That was so well put. I think for me too, like I feel very grateful to have had the opportunity to go to Juilliard, because obviously it's such a well-known music school, but then even within the music division you have the jazz division, and those musicians have a set of skills that I can just be in so much admiration of, and I'm like, I could never come close to being able to improvise the way that you all do. And obviously improvisation is a learned skill, but it's just really incredible to me to be able to watch them do that. But then we also have the drama division and the dance division. So for me, like a really big perk of the school was being immersed with all of those creatives in one building, and then that building existing in New York City. Like that's what I was saying at the top of when we were starting recording. That's just, I think in New York City, everybody is very open to everything, and people are excited by other projects that other people are doing. And I think it's really cool to be able to see a project that someone's doing and go, wow, that makes so much sense for them. And maybe it wouldn't be your path, but you can see what they're doing, be like, that is really cool. And like, that makes me want to create better art out of my own ideas as well.
Exactly. And I think we've talked about this before at one point, and we should do a whole episode on that. I've definitely noticed a very big difference in how the US draft, for example, their bios and how we draft our bios in Europe. I feel like there's a lot more room for interdisciplinary stuff in the US, and it also feels like there's a lot more focus on intention and or inspiration in people's bios rather than like what they've done.
Yeah,
we should talk about this on another episode.
We should definitely hash this out, because like I'm having now so many thoughts like come to mind, but I wanted to make sure before we ran out of time that we also maybe talked about some of the practicalities of what it looks like to be coming out of school and being like, okay, how do I survive? We've talked a lot about inspiration behind our jobs, why we do the jobs that we do, and also what kind of jobs that we do. I feel like we sort of barely scratched the surface because there's just so many different things, but I hope that gives a bit of an overview into all the different things that we do. And I think maybe we could now talk about like practicalities of what it looks like to be getting into that field.
How did that look for you when you were starting to kind of make a name for yourself in New York?
So yeah, when I moved to New York, I would have been 22, turning 23, moved there for my graduate degree. And I was really lucky that I got involved with like the gig scene really early on in New York. And I think New York is a special city just in terms of how much is going on. Like there's always an orchestra that needs another cellist. There's always a recording session going on. But at the same time, everybody knows everybody and people talk. And so for me, I very much found that I sort of got into one orchestra through subbing for a friend who couldn't do it. And so I took the role for that week for her. And then from there, literally the person that I was sitting next to that was my stand partner gave my name to somebody else. And I now, because of literally that interaction, I now regularly play with 4 orchestras in New York City. But that's literally because I subbed for somebody one time.
Yeah.
And so I think that also goes to show that I think sometimes people have this idea of like, oh, I'm only going to take jobs if it is my dream job off the bat, which again, first of all, define for yourself what your dream job is, because sometimes I think we have this really glamorized idea of like, I'm traveling everywhere and in a new dressing room, a new concert hall every single week. Okay, then how are you going to get yourself there? And for me, my dream job was like being a professional cellist based in New York City. You know, like that sort of was the dream at the time and is a bit still my dream now. And so I think it's just a question of continuously leveling up the project I'm working on and my own playing in order to be able to meet these next levels and goals that I have for myself. But I got involved with the gig scene really early on. And then honestly, because of my social media, got some students really early on. I think it was people that had seen both my playing online, and then also the fact that I didn't only post playing content, but also posted, I had like a little series going on for a bit that was like Technique Tuesday, when I would talk about like different types of techniques and how to do them. And they're kind of, I don't know, I haven't watched them back in like 6 years, so who knows what they actually look like. But I think I was really blessed with the teachers that I had in undergrad and graduate, and even my pre-college professors, like one of the leading cello professors in the world. So I just had like this incredible wealth of knowledge that had sort of been dumped on me. And I think because I had such incredible teachers, I became really passionate and interested in teaching. And then that sort of spilled over into my online content. And so that's how I also got jobs. And then I think my online profiles and my website and all of that, it really is a business card.
Yeah.
And I think it's also the act of like posting consistently and having quality content showing up consistently. This feels weird, like I'm tooting my own horn. I'm just trying to be practical about what it looks like.
A whole other episode on the benefits of like having your own social media.
Yeah. Well, it's a really big skill set, and I think for me it was just that my name is top of mind now for a lot of things when it comes to New York.
You're so famous.
No, and it's like, that's the thing, is like, it doesn't really feel like fame. It feels like networking.
Yeah, it's like
feels
a
like
shop
just
window.
Exactly. It's like, I just feel like every single time I post something, I'm putting myself out there, and I'm being like, these are things that I'm capable of doing. These are things that I find interesting. And I would be lying if I said that didn't play a really big role in me being able to have the privilege of choosing to stay in New York after I graduated. But I'm very proud of the fact that I moved to New York, and my parents helped with some of the tuition while I was in school, but I have not asked them for a single cent since I moved to New York City. And I actually paid off my student loans within, I think, 13 months of graduating.
That is so nice.
I paid off all of my student loans, and it wasn't pretty all the time. That's the other thing too, is I think people, they see somebody's life on Instagram, and I mean, I do get these comments where they go, oh my God, you're such an inspiration, which that's such a flattering compliment to get. And I hope that I'm showing like a realistic version of what it looks like to live in New York in your 20s. But I also I am kind of living my dream, like in New York in my 20s, living with some of my best friends, like playing music. I can't complain about that. But that does not mean that every gig that I play is my favorite gig in the world.
Yeah.
That's just also the reality of the situation. And so I think for me too, like if I were to give like really, really actual practical advice about gigging and about like finding your sort of footing in a new setting, and if you're trying to gauge like if a gig is worth it, this is advice that somebody gave to me, and it's advice that I continue to give to other people because I think it's very true. But a gig needs to have 2 of these 3 things in order to be considered, and even better if it has 3 of the 3 things. But it either needs to pay really well, have really good music, and or be with really good people. And if it's not hitting 2 of those 3 markers, I'm out.
Yeah. Having that realization and being like, if it doesn't enrich you, if it's not worth your energy or your time, or like you don't earn any money and it's with horrible people, then it's
not worth it. Well, and that's the crazy thing too, is I actually like I said, I play with several orchestras in the city, but that means that I think after a little bit, your name just starts floating around the networks of orchestras in the city or in Jersey. And I got a gig ask like for playing for an orchestra a couple weeks ago, and I looked at the pay rate and I was like, are you kidding me? And it was for some place that I would have had to commute 2 hours.
It's always the way. It's always like a double whammy.
Yeah. And like, I'm sorry, in New York, I don't have a car. I'm taking public transit everywhere. So if the public transit is not convenient, that already is like a massive ding for me, that I'm like, I have to really think about this. But the pay was crap. Like, it was so bad. And I remember screenshotting it and sending it to some of my, freelance friends in the city and being like, is this normal? Because it was a organization that I had heard of before. Like, I knew people had played for them. And so I was like, I would have expected this to be 4 times as much as what it was. So I said no. I was like, this is not worth, again, like my time, my effort, my money that I would have had to spend like on transit getting out there. I was like, oh, absolutely not. But I had one of my freelance colleagues in the city that I play a lot with. He was like, you can lose a lot of money working here.
Yeah.
Like, if you actually say yes to every single thing that's coming across your plate, you are going to burn out so fast, and you're going to be working with people that maybe are not filling your cup or your banking account the way that it needs to. So I think also like being picky with your time and energy, and like going back to those 3 pillars or those questions that you can ask yourself, is really important, because it's important to be able to pay your rent, but also you have to be doing it in a way that's not running you dry at the end of the week every single week.
Yeah.
Because I think when you say, what's that other famous saying? Like when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else, and you might not even know what that something else is yet, but there will be something else down the line. And so you just want to be very precious with your time and energy, I think.
Yeah. For me, that's like saying no to stuff if they don't pay cello travel.
Oh, yeah.
You would not believe the number of people who are like, no. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that's like half my salary, sorry.
The cello is coming with me and you have to pay for the cello.
I was like, what am I going to do without it?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, trust me, you don't want me there without the cello. I don't have any good tricks once I'm up on stage.
But
So yeah, I think that's sort of what I would say to someone that's maybe where I was 4 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, maybe I also, before we wrap up for today, I also want to ask you, because you have a little bit of a different perspective in terms of what it looks like to be soloing with a lot of orchestras, and doing like solo recording projects. So if you wanted to talk a little bit about what it looked like getting into that, and then yeah, just sort of what your trajectory has been with that and how you see that as feeding into your own career and your own artistry.
Yeah. I think I did the movie, and then I did a recording with Deutsche Grammophon that came out around the time of the movie, which actually did really well, and that was an arrangement of some music by female composers and some other composers that aren't as well known as they deserve to be, and that kind of set off a chain of concerts in Germany. I did some TV concerts with with Daniel Hope and Lang Lang, which were absolutely mental, but it kind of all got to the point where I had to be very selective about the concerts that I wanted to do, in terms of like that I didn't feel like I was ready to be playing all those concertos all the time, because I was still so early in my development. So I like scaled it back, and I would just do the ones which I felt, exactly like you said, I'd either learn a lot, I'd meet some great people, or like, you know, would pay well, because I was still studying and I had to juggle it all. And as much as I feel so lucky to have been able to do a job that like directly complements my studies, like I didn't have to go and work in a cafe while I was, even though I actually genuinely would have really loved to go work in a cafe. I love making coffee, so like, and I love baking, so I would have loved to do that, and one summer I will go away and do that. Like, so yeah, but like I feel really privileged to have done that. And now what's made the biggest difference for me is and various different countries have this kind of thing. So if you're really interested in being a soloist, have a look around for all the sorts of different young artist programs there are out there. I'm on one called Podium, run by Talent Norway. Thank you so much to the Norwegian Culture Department for funding mine. Yeah, but there's like one in the UK called YCAT, and there's several other ones. There's like, I could go on and on. Maybe I'll make a list and like post it somewhere on social media, so you guys can have this as a resource. But they are like the bridge between an agent and where I am now. So I get all sorts of different concerts with different orchestras. Will like maybe be a bit more strategic and like building up repertoire. I mean, this is great because I'm having like some kind of guidance, and before this I was just getting gigs through like word of mouth. People would have seen me play this concert and then they invite me to the next one. There'd be someone there in the audience who would then come and say, do you want to come play with us next year? Or like someone who'd heard my recording. But also a lot of them was me reaching out to people and saying, hi, I love what you guys stand for, I think we could do something together. Or like putting on my own projects. But yeah, I'm putting together a concert series so I'm able to play chamber music with my favorite people, like because I spent
win-win.
I've arranged the pieces so it works for the ensemble. I've applied for the funding. Like you have to get good at writing applications, which I actually really enjoy, like arguing this is why you should give me money. But like that's also such an inspiring thing. I feel like people kind of, especially if you want to like do a soloist career or any kind of career, you sit around and you wait for someone to find you. A lot of the times you can literally go out and make those opportunities for yourself, and that's what I find it so inspiring. There are a lot of really exciting people putting on really exciting projects themselves, and I feel like the sky's your limit really. So yeah, hopefully this podcast episode has been a bit of a like eye-opening, and just kind of how many different things are out there and how many possibilities there are, because really you can do whatever you want. And I'm not just saying that, we're so lucky. I don't think it's a better time to be an artist than now. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah. I think the main thought I was having based on everything you were saying was that the world is simultaneously so big and so small. Like we've never been at a more connected time, and I think things that you want are just at your fingertips if you are brave enough to ask for them.
Damn,
So
girl.
that's what I would say. Go for it.
Yeah.
What Sophie said. It's if you want it, then go for it.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions about this topic, about other topics that you would like to request to be on the podcast, or just general things that you're like, hey, I wish I could talk to somebody about this, you can always feel free to write us at notesfrombackstagepodcast@gmail.com or find us on Instagram. Bye.
See you next week. Bye.